Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. We're sponsored by Indigo Communications and we're on 5 days a week from 4 o'clock live. I'm delighted to say we're down in Liverpool ready for the big kick-off, match day 3 in the Champions League Group A. It's Liverpool against Rangers. And I'm very happy to say the usual face of Tam McManus is alongside me, and we've got a special guest in the Daily Mail's Stephen McGowan to join us for this one. We are eagerly anticipating it as a journalist who's followed many a European campaign for Scottish sides. Is this one of those games where there's a fear that it could go woefully wrong against a team that can far outspend Rangers?
You can look at it two ways, can't you? I mean, you're absolutely right. I think the Liverpool squad is worth 7 times what Rangers were assembled for. Really, Liverpool have got a strange fragility to them just now, Peter. You're looking at them thinking they're vulnerable in a way you've never really seen before. But equally, you know, Rangers, while they might fancy it, they'll also be worried that they're going to be playing against an angry team. Because Liverpool, they're really under pressure to get something here. They've lost 8 goals in the last 3 games. And you have to think that there's still a quality and a class about Liverpool which could at some point fire. We saw them, they put 9 goals past Bournemouth, didn't they? So they've absolutely got it in their locker. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. I think Rangers will do okay. I don't rule out Rangers getting a point, but honestly, predicting it, difficult, because you don't know what you're going to get from either side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody, hankers for, I think, Tam, the Rangers of last season that shocked us all and produced the performances that got them through all the way to the Europa League final in Seville. But this time around, the Hearts result was a good result. But I wonder, the big question is, who does he play up front? You're a striker, you know the value of a striker who can hold it in, or a striker who is deadly in the box. The big conundrum here for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and he mentioned to us yesterday in the press conference, he knows what that call is in his mind. In your mind, should it be Čolak or Morelos?
I think it should probably be Morelos. I think when you look at the way he can lead the line himself, he's going to have to do that tonight. I think against 2 quality centre-backs, he's got to be able to run in behind. Čolak's better if he's back to goal. He's a finisher. But Rangers are not going to get 3, 4, 5 chances tonight. You know, it's not as if it's a St Mirren or a Motherwell, or no disrespect to their clubs. Might get 1 or 2 chances, and I think that Morelos is a better fit. Is he fit enough to start the game? He's come off the bench a few times, but is he fit enough to start the game? So it could be that he plays him for maybe 60 minutes and then brings Čolak on, or he reverses that and does it the other way around. But I think that's his big call. But I would probably go with Morelos if he's fit.
Yeah, he's a clever player. Some people think he's an annoying player, but I personally like strikers who are annoying, because if you're up that field and suddenly you buy a free kick for your team, they get further up the park. He's clever in the way that he's got a trick or two as well, Stephen.
He just brings other players into the game, doesn't he? I mean, it's not a slight on Čolak as such. It's just a different kind of game, as Tam kind of referred to there. In the Premiership, you're going to get 4 or 5 chances. He's a penalty box poacher, Čolak, from what I can see. Although his movement against Hearts was really very good for the 2 goals. His finishing was sublime. But Morelos just offers you an all-round package and a physicality which, as Tam said, they're going to need tonight. And I have to say, the prospect of Morelos against Virgil van Dijk, that to me, that's mouth-watering to me, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Sam's, in fact, I like your assertion of the whole thing, Tam, which is basically... Morelos will be looking at a guy, even Čolak if he plays, a guy who just strolls about. You can hear the Hamlet cigar theme. But I'll tell you right now, this season that's not the case, because we were listening to journalists actually grilling Giovanni Van Bronckhorst on the drop in form of Virgil van Dijk. He can be got at this season. I
think he can. I think, listen, we all remember him from his time at Celtic. He was a class act, he cruised it, and then he went to Southampton. We thought, Premiership. Cruised at Southampton as well, and I think since he's come back from injury, he picked up a bad injury. I don't think he looks the same player. He's still got that pace, that electric pace, and when you're playing against somebody like that, it's difficult, because you can't run him behind. He's too quick for you, he's too strong for you. But I think Morelos can ruffle him up. I think he can get in about him, he can win fouls, he can unsettle him, and I think that's why he'll probably get the nod. But I agree there. It's a mouth-watering prospect. Morelos against Van Dijk. Does Van Dijk get too tight to him? Morelos loves that. He can feel the defender. So I think Stephen's right there. I think that'll be a key matchup. I think if they play.
I actually just wonder, Tam, if there's an element of the kind of Chris Boyd about Čolak.
Yeah, I mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, he'll get goals. He's a tremendous finisher. But it's just games where you might not necessarily want to trust him.
Yeah.
which is harsh on him. But
Well, listen, there were some people writing him off after 2 games, saying that he didn't have this, he couldn't do this, couldn't do that. But I think you've got to cut the boy some slack. Do you get the sense sometimes? I mean, we're living in a world now where you've either got to cut it as a manager after 19 games, you've got to cut it as a player after a certain amount of games to get a goal or to make a significant contribution. We're really quick to judge on people now. Maybe we're being unkind to Cholak. Maybe he could offer something tonight, but it's just you can only deal with what your eyes tell you.
it's really harsh, because if you look at it, you look at some of the analysis of the Rangers new signings, the left back, Yilmaz, or you look at Tillman's done okay, you look at Matondo, some of the criticism of these guys, John Suter's not been able to make much of a contribution. So to actually draw kind of mildly kind of negative comments about Cholak's really unfair, because he scored 11 goals. Is it 11 goals in 14 games, is it? That's terrific. And all you ask, we always say, Celtic and Rangers, you don't have any time. You've got to hit the ground running. And he has done. But as I say, it's not a slight on him as a footballer, it's just a different kind of challenge. You get back to what Tam said earlier. This game is going to need something different, because it's not going to be a typical Scottish Premiership game.
Yeah, the other point that I need to pick up on, you mentioned Yilmaz there. Tillman looked good at times when you watched him earlier on this season, and you thought, "Yep, he's going to be a player and a half." But you get Suter now out till after the World Cup. Yesterday, the bombshell of Lawrence out till after the World Cup. Ben Davis, his game time has been limited. You might not have a lot of time, but if you are signing players, Tam, you've got to have the majority of them doing something, contributing for you. Or you get Giovanni Van Bronckhorst in the press conference yesterday, I thought, trying to put a brave face on the fact that, he's got a threadbare squad and he needs a strong 11 to have any chance. Whereas, as you know, the game now is all about squad players and players coming off the bench to contribute and make a difference.
Yeah, I think there's some key injuries. I think, to Rangers, the squad is decimated. I think Hillander's been a huge miss. I think the balance he gives them at the back, left-sided and Golson can play on the right-hand side. They were pivotal, I think, when Rangers won the league that season. So he's been a huge miss. Lawrence looked as if he was going to be a real proper player, scoring goals, done well in the European games. He's out as well. So that they are a little bit threadbare, but when you look at their team, on paper, they've still got a strong team. He's still got options in the wide areas. Middle of the pitch, he's got Steve Davis in there, Arfield, Lundstrom, Jack. So it'll depend on what kind of balance he goes. Does he play the 4-2-3-1? Does he play the 4-3-3 and match up with Liverpool? Because that's what Liverpool, how they're going to play. 4-3-3, 2 full backs bombing on. So we'll have to wait and see. But I still think Rangers are capable of getting a result. But they've got to be brave in the possession. Liverpool, I think the first 20 minutes are going to press the life out of Rangers. I think they're going to get after them and try and get that early goal to settle them down. And if the Rangers can survive the first 20 minutes and then start to just pick their way through that press, and get running at that back two, then I think Rangers have got opportunities on the break. Yeah,
there are 2 key players in this game for me that I think could be potentially someone that can help their team out. One is, and I'm not overly enamoured with him, I'm going to be honest with you, I think Kent is an underachiever. I think he can play well, he's got the ability, he's got the skill, the speed, he's got the trickery that can do something for Rangers. I don't think he does it enough. I think the goal against Hearts was a really good goal. You need to see that sort of thing, because what happens with him, Stephen, is when he gives the ball away, suddenly the whole team has to go that way. And if he doesn't create, you're sitting there with someone that you think, well, he's a passenger.
We were actually talking about this in the pre-match press conference, just speaking with colleagues yesterday. You're looking at Ryan Kent's situation. He's up against Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's a fantastic player, but there's been questions about him this season. He's gone back against his old team, where he barely played the first team game, if any. He is out of contract at the end of the season, and you're looking at Ryan Kent saying, if you can't embrace this and turn it on tonight, when can you? He's got all the motivation in the world to go and impress people, to go and show big clubs in England what he can do. If he's not going to sign for Rangers at the minute, there's no real sign that he is. So, my goodness, what a stage this is for Ryan Kent to go and say, look at me, I am a player worth having in the team. You're right, wee signs of it against Hearts at the weekend. Needs to be more consistent, needs to do more of it.
And the other one, which is I'm going to mention, which just fills me full of fear, because we want to see Rangers do well in this competition, want to see them try and get something positive from this game, Tam. The one that fills me full of fear is Salah going down that flank, coming up against Barisic. This could be one of those games where I think a number of Rangers fans are watching the game through their fingers when he's got the ball.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a situation tonight where both sets of fullbacks aren't great defensively, and I think they'll just try and push forward and try and impose themselves on the other fullback. You know how Liverpool are going to play. The two fullbacks are going to be high, they're going to play like wingers. So that's going to create an overload in the wide areas for Liverpool. Rangers have got to be brave, they can't get pinned back in that area. And Barisic and Tavernier are better going that way as well, going forward. So I think that's going to be a real interesting tactical battle as well. How brave are Rangers going to be? Are they going to say to their fullbacks what they usually do, push up, get high? Or are they going to sit back and say, right, we need to contain Liverpool a little bit here? So I think the key areas are going to be the wide areas tonight.
Yeah, that's Tam's way of saying midway through the second half, I turn to him and say, talk us through this 5-4 game, Tam.
But you know what, I don't know if you can entirely rule out the possibility of Van Bronckhorst going 3-5-2. You know, maybe pulling Lundstram back in. Don't know if you would trust Leon King with such a game like this, but pull Lundstram back in and play kind of two wing backs as well, and then have Kent supporting Morelos or Jolak. So it's going to be intriguing to see what he does. I mean, that 3-5-2 worked for him in places like Dortmund and what have you last season. I just think there's a danger of kind of overthinking it sometimes. You know, I think sometimes you've seen Rangers go away from home, Celtic Park, or away from home in Europe, and they've been quite tentative and cautious. I just think they've got to try and play their game. Yeah, because there's nothing, they're hiding to nothing here.
There's nothing to lose. Rangers have nothing to lose.
Absolutely.
Nobody expects Rangers to get anything, especially down in England.
Yeah.
They're expecting Liverpool. I think Liverpool 1-12 or something in the bookies. So it's a free hit. It is a free hit for Rangers tonight. So I agree with Stephen. Go out and have a go.
Yeah, Rangers are 14-1 with some bookmakers to get a result in this one. 15-2 the draw, and as you say, 1-7 for Liverpool. Yeah. It's not great as a bet, but apart from anything else, Stephen, you and I have been all over Europe watching Rangers and Celtic. When you hit England, I don't care what team Celtic or Rangers have got, there is always that feeling of, we must have an inferiority complex here. But this time around, I mean, I remember we've mentioned previous games. Leeds was fantastic for Rangers home and away. There's been the odd friendly, I think, against Liverpool. They've never come up against them competitively. But I just think the gap and the chasm between the two now is what makes it scary.
If you look at, I was actually looking back at that Leeds United Rangers 1992 yesterday, and the Leeds team was world class, but so was the Rangers team.
Yeah.
And Rangers won 4-2 in aggregate. Even when you look at Celtic against Blackburn, when Graham Souness was in charge and Celtic beat them on the way to Seville, Celtic at that point where their wage bill was one of the top 5 in the UK. That is completely gone. It's been blown out of the water. Celtic and Rangers now, I would guess their wage bills will be lucky to get into the top 20, maybe even top 30. So, I mean, you're talking at a completely different scenario from any other Battle of Britain we've seen in the past before. And I think that makes it a really formidable challenge for Rangers. But the one thing with this, Peter, is whenever we get this Battle of Britain scenario, it really gets the juices flowing, doesn't it? Well, and you actually you fancy it in a way you don't necessarily fancy other games, and it does embolden teams, I think, sometimes, that maybe motivates them to do something that otherwise they might not be able to.
Let's not forget that Celtic drew twice with Man City. Yeah. In the Champions League, so and nobody gave Celtic a chance in those games. So a quality Man City outfit. So yeah, there is a gap, in terms of finance. But I think if Rangers play really, really well, bring their A game, play really well, get a little bit of luck, and Liverpool are off it, then Rangers can get a result. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be brutally not pessimistic, realistic on the whole scenario here. The one point that you have made, and Stephen and I look at and say, okay, it might be that boxer's chance of just hitting a left uppercut that catches everybody out. This is a Liverpool side that have conceded 14 goals in 9 games. This is a Liverpool side that have only had 2 clean sheets. They've got 4 draws and a defeat to Manchester United, but you're talking Fulham, Crystal Palace, Everton, Brighton, that clearly have been able to breach that back line. So that's that little modicum of hope for a team that basically has won the Champions League 6 times, has spent a fair amount of money. Jurgen Klopp said he knows Rangers are coming to fight. Yeah.
I think the other thing as well, Peter, is that people talk about Brighton slightly dismissively. I mean, you look at this Brighton team, it's the best Brighton team anyone can, I think, since compared to the early 80s, when they were getting to FA Cup finals. It's a really talented team. Graham Potter obviously got the Chelsea job in the back of it. So there's a danger you can read a little bit too much into that. They've been dropping points and losing to top quality teams, not cannon fodder. So that is a cautionary tale, and as I said earlier, you just don't know. They have to win this, Liverpool. If they don't, there will be widespread talk of a crisis for the first time since, I think, Jurgen Klopp took over.
Yeah, I get the feeling that yesterday some of the English journalists were saying he was fairly low key about it. You know, he can go up and down, and if he gets a little bit miffed with someone, he gets a little bit edgy. But there seemed to be a kind of, I don't know, it's not a calmness. It was more a case of flat, because he knew the flack was coming with regards to the Brighton result, and he knows this is going to be a confidence boost. In fact, I think Simicast, the left back, was talking about they're looking at this one to boost their confidence again, to get them back on track. Just one game that can suddenly turn the season. So as you mentioned there, Stephen, they must win it. For Rangers, I can't see where the point is coming from at all. I look at Celtic and Rangers in the campaign, and suddenly you're saying to yourself, they're up that level. We were all hacked off when they were in the Europa League because you'd been that used to Champions League football. Well, we're now all in it, looking at Rangers and Celtic, and I think the quality of the teams that they're facing, Napoli, Liverpool contesting it, Ajax, look a stonewall third place to me, and I can't see where Rangers are going to get a point.
I don't think you would expect them to get it tonight.
No.
I don't think you would expect them to get it in the games against Liverpool. Ajax at home, you know, Ibrox full. You know, I thought Rangers were excellent against Napoli until the sending off. You know, I think they showed that they could be competitive at home. Away from home, I don't see them picking up anything at all. You know, but third place is the best you're hoping for. And as you said, if Liverpool need to win, if Liverpool don't win tonight, you know, and Ajax beat Napoli, all of a sudden they're struggling a little bit to get through, and they've got to go to Ibrox. So. Nah, I don't see it at all with Rangers. I think they're in the elite level. They were very unlucky with the group they got. Let's be honest. I think Celtic got a kinder group in terms of quality, but I think Rangers' level is the Europa League. They'll take the money of the Champions League, but I don't think they can be competitive at all in this group.
It just shows you how far the ambition has dropped. Because now that Celtic and Rangers are back in the group stages, everybody's thinking, oh, third place is January and beyond. Whereas Martin O'Neill and Gordon Strachan at times were looking and saying the goal for them was knockout stage. Just get to a knockout stage game.
You know, I've written this a few times, Peter. I think third place is the Willy Wonka's golden ticket, because you get the kind of riches of the group stages, you get the big glamorous games. You then, as you quite rightly say, you get the chance of European football after Christmas. You know, and you get the chance of a run in Europa League, as we've seen with Rangers. I mean, you look back at Celtic getting to Seville, you look back at Rangers, you know, as well, getting to the finals. Those campaigns live far longer in the memory than, say, Celtic getting knocked out by Juventus in the last 16. Nobody really remembers that. It doesn't really... It wouldn't go down in folklore as one of Celtic's greatest feats, you know, even though it was a tremendous achievement. It's the Europa League runs that really rock the boat of fans, and I think that's the perfect scenario for Celtic Rangers. Get that third place by hook or by crook. Like Tam, I think at Ibrox, Rangers are a different beast. I think they play like a team possessed, backed by the fans. I don't rule them out getting a point next week against Liverpool at home, Ajax at home possibly as well. 2 points. That's probably not going to be enough for third place, but it would at least allow him to salvage some pride.
Right, you don't know about this, so we may as well tell you. I wish you hadn't mentioned the Juventus game, by the way, because all I can hear is the echoes of Lubo Moravcik saying, oh yeah, I like that Juventus game. I got to nutmeg Pavel Nedved, which is, I love the players in general.
Said they were cheated at the end? Is that the...
Well, no, that was the one in that was in Turin.
I was thinking the one where they actually got to the knockout stages. Remember the one where there was was it Strachan in charge?
Yeah, it was AC Milan. Kaká ran away from McManus and Lennon. But I love individual players. You know, Gordon Smith used to say when he was playing for Rangers or Man City, he said, you know, if we get absolutely battered, but I played well. Yeah, that's okay. I played well, and I love that kind of a selfish attitude. I remember Moravcik saying to me, you know, Champions League, brilliant, nutmeg on Nedved, superb. But for Rangers here, the one thing I was going to say to you is, by the way, this programme goes out and then we get all sorts of messages coming in from people who watch it in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, America. And the key issue here, Stephen, is by the time they watch it, the game's finished. Yeah. So you're going to look mightily foolish. So, Tam, you might as well kick us off. How do you see it going?
I don't think it's going to be a walkover that a lot of people expect. You know, Liverpool 4-5-0. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Liverpool. I think Rangers are capable of scoring, but I just think at the other end Liverpool have got too much quality, so I'll go for 3-1 to Liverpool.
Yeah, honestly, I swear to God, Tam, I'm not kidding you. That was exactly what I was going to go. So I'll go.
You can go the same.
No, I'll go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool, but you know, you just want to hedge your bets, and I don't absolutely rule out Rangers getting a point here. I really don't. But if I end up looking foolish, I didn't say that.
Okay,
Right.
well, I have to tell you this, by the way. If Rangers get a point, and I mentioned it to James Tavernier yesterday, what would it mean? He said, listen, if we get a point at Anfield, it ranks right up there as one of the best European results in his time as a Rangers captain, and I think that sums it up perfectly on how he's looking. If they do get a point, what we'll do is Tam and I will take you out and we'll buy you a meal after the game tonight as well, because I know you're living in a cabin, because the one thing I do the research in Liverpool, Tam. We get a not bad hotel out of it. He's living in a place where Bruce Willis visits it every now and then. It's just it just doesn't look the best, does it?
No, and after making that prediction, if they lose 5-0, you can get me out the witness protection programme. That's where we'll need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Liverpool against Rangers, absolutely fantastic. Really looking forward to it. And of course, from a Scottish perspective, we want Rangers to try and get something from the game. Point, brilliant. 3 points, and I think most Rangers fans will just leave the cars that they travel down in here and then just fly home on their own, because that would be absolutely sensational and put them right bang in the mix. Stranger things have happened. But from Rangers here in Liverpool to Celtic, they were flying out for the game against Leipzig, and this one is a real conundrum again, because if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is wondering about who's playing up front between Cholak and Morelos, his big debate is whether he takes a chance on Cameron Carter-Vickers, Stephen.
Yeah, I think that's huge for Celtic. I mean, for me, Cameron Carter-Vickers is the best defender in Scotland this season, by a country mile, actually. And, you know, the minute you heard about him being injured, you just had that bit of trepidation for Celtic, and it's been backed up by the performances since he's been out of the team. You know, no harm to Stephen Welsh, but I don't know that anybody would necessarily see Stephen Welsh as a long-term first-team starter for Celtic. It is what it is. Moritz Jens is still bedding in. You know, if you look at, we're talking about Rangers losing some games quite heavily. It's no coincidence that was when James Sand, a midfielder, was playing central defence. If you take your best central defenders out of the team, it just removes your foundation stone, doesn't it? It removes your confidence, and I think that's absolutely natural with Celtic, that they've just not been anything like the same team without Starfelt, without Cameron Vickers, particularly Cameron Vickers.
Yeah, it's a big call for him, Tam, on this one, because Ange Postecoglou mentioned he doesn't want to put him in and then suddenly he loses him for another 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, it's a big call, but I think if Celtic have got any aspirations of qualifying, they need to pick something up in Leipzig tomorrow night. I think that at home, you know, you would fancy Celtic against anyone, but away from home, you've got to pick something up. If you can pick 4 points up against Leipzig, or even split the points, you know, a win each, you go into that Shakhtar game at home with a win, you know, you're probably going to get second place. You don't want to be going to Madrid in the last game of the season needing a point or
Although they might be qualified by now.
They might be qualified, but even their B team will be pretty strong. So I think if Celtic are, you know, have got any aspirations, and they have, I think Celtic fans have got aspirations of getting out of this group, you need to go over there and get at least a point.
Well, let me put a dampener on it for all of you here, because quite simply, you know, glorious failure and great performances, but losing, you know, gets you nowhere. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were all either talking about it or writing about possibly the Invincibles. Celtic have come off the rails.
Yeah, I think I go back to the point we made before. I think that's allied to the loss of the key central defenders. I think as well, I think tomorrow night they need a really big night for Joe Hart. He needs to cut out some of the heebie-jeebies we've been seeing recently. Just don't think he's looked. I think he's always, when he's got the ball at his feet, he's always slightly weary anyway. But I just think in recent weeks he hasn't been inspiring the confidence. I mean, he's a big player, both in terms of his character and in terms of his technical ability. So we get his leadership qualities, but he does need to lead, especially when the defence, if it is Welsh and Jens, need a steady hand behind him. And you know, the weekend and in previous games, you just feel he's not quite been there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point here. I look at the game against Shakhtar Donetsk. There's no surprise with Celtic in the first 20 minutes. They usually come out and they play. I thought they played really well, but then there's that little period where the opposition always get a grip on the game, and Shakhtar at one point suddenly got in there. Mudryk on the left-hand side started to cause them real problems, and then lo and behold, they lose the goal. And whatever you say afterwards, a lot of fans are going, oh, we played absolutely fantastically well, we're going to do well. It doesn't cut like that in the Champions League, because you're now in a situation against the Leipzig side. Things have changed for them domestically. They'll want to climb from, I think they're 11th in the Bundesliga table. They'll want to start climbing up that table. And they've got Timo Werner there. Nkunku is a dangerous player. We sampled him last season against Rangers. So they've got players now, top quality players, who can hurt if Celtic suddenly have that wee patch of 10-15 minutes where they've lost control of the game. They need to do something, I think, in this game again.
I think the Champions League, it's the elite level. You've got to be concentrated for 90 minutes. You're not going to get away with switching off. The two players you mentioned, Nkunku and Werner, top class strikers, both scored at the weekend. And I think that's going to be a key. How can Celtic defend against those two? I think Carter Vickers has got to play. I really do. I think if you put Welsh in there, Starfelt's still injured. If you're putting Welsh in there, I think you're going to be in trouble. No harm to the boy, but this is elite level. Those 2 points dropped against Shakhtar could come back and haunt Celtic, because they should have won that game, and they were in great form at the time. I don't think they're in as good form now. They're going to, in my opinion, a better side. I know Shakhtar won over there, but I think now Leipzig are a better side, and Leipzig will be like Celtic. They'll be thinking second place. If we can win here and get a point at Parkhead, it puts us in the driving seat. So it's a huge game for Celtic, but they've got to, in my opinion, they've got to get something out of the game if they've got to finish second.
Yeah, I sometimes think, and we all have to take it on the chin if you get accused of this lazy journalism, Stephen, but, everybody's going, oh, well, Shakhtar won over there. But if you watch the game, they gifted them 2 goals.
Yeah, it was freakish, Peter. I mean, the first one, the keeper, he's made the wickets in the kind of centre circle, hasn't he? And Marian Cheved is an easy finish. The second one was a really heavy deflection. 2-0, you're chasing the game to get picked off. Since then, of course, they've changed their manager as well, which, as we inevitably see, usually has a bit of a bounce in a team. So I totally agree with Tam. I think what a massive opportunity Celtic lost to beat Shakhtar Donetsk in Poland. You will never have a game like that again, possible. We have so many chances, so many clear-cut, gilt-edged opportunities to win away from home, something they don't do very often, let's be honest. So, I don't fancy them particularly tomorrow night, I have to say, particularly as we keep going back to if Cameron Carter-Vickers isn't playing.
Yeah, that's the point of it all here. I mean, I think Abada will miss out as well, Tam, obviously, for religious reasons at Yom Kippur. He may well not have even been selected in the squad for this one. But you look at the team that he's going to pick. Okay, Cameron Carter-Vickers, we wait to see. Jens, Taylor, Juranovic, Hatate, McGregor, O'Reilly usually, and then Jota, Kyogo and Maeda. Giacomakis could come in there, but he tends to look for, I think, in the first 45 to 60 minutes, he looks for legs. He looks for the high press to see if he can actually get a foothold in the game, a leading position, before he starts thinking about those changes. Yeah,
I think he will. I think the team you mentioned, I think that will start the game. Kyogo can run in behind. He's went off the boil a little bit, missed a few chances against Motherwell. I just wonder if he's regretting making all those changes against St Mirren, because I think the rhythm that Celtic were in, it was the same team every week. They were just the team picked itself, and after 60 minutes they brought 5 subs on. It was the same 5 subs, to come on and see the game out. And I just don't think Celtic have looked in the same rhythm and the same form since that defeat, especially if it was right before an international break. So I think that was a huge, and Ange Postecoglou's took a lot of praise, rightly so. He's done terrifically well at Celtic, but I think all those changes and losing that game is going to come back and haunt them, because I think a lot of players have lost rhythm by missing that game.
You talked about Kyogo there actually, Tam, but I think Maeda as well. People are asking questions about Maeda, about he's an incredibly willing runner. He gives you a massive shift every single time. He presses, he closes down. But in terms of the quality of his final ball sometimes and his finishing, and that's why Abada being missing is a bit of a blow as well, because personally I would have had him in the starting 11.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. I mean, he does have options from the bench, and I think stronger options at times than what Rangers have been able to call on, and they have to contribute. I mean, James Forrest has been nowhere near anything, although when you consider what he contributed in European football for Celtic, he should be a key element for him, but whether he just doesn't fancy him or not, I think that's a key issue here. He's got his tried and trusted 11 that he likes, and then, the supporting cast has to contribute at some point in the latter stages of matches. Let's flip it on its head. Like Rangers, we want to see Rangers do something in Anfield. So over in Leipzig, if Celtic could get a point, if they get a win, they could go second.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, a point's not impossible. I just don't see them winning the game. I think they can score. I think they can absolutely score in the game. But again, I think you're looking at a 2 or 3-1 for me in terms of Leipzig and then the final score. But, absolutely, I hope they can get something. And fascinating double headers. I mean, again, you would fancy Celtic to take Leipzig back to Glasgow and absolutely have a real good chance of winning that game. And if you're sitting at 4 points, it's all to play for.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 Leipzig.
Yeah,
We're a right barrel of laughs on
I
this
know.
programme. I really wish we could. I mean, honestly, I could play the Man City programme out, and we'd have that same negativity around the games as well. I'm sorry, but we're trying our best.
I think if Carter Vickers plays, I think Celtic can get a point. If not, I don't think to see him getting anything. He is crucial to that backline. So if he plays, I think a point. If not, I think Leipzig will win.
Okay, I think 15-9 for Leipzig, 9-2 for Celtic, 7-2 the draw. Give us your thoughts on it. And don't forget, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll like so many others. Thank you to the thousands and thousands of people who are enjoying our podcast, downloading that across all the platforms. But the YouTube figures, we are absolutely indebted to you for joining us on a regular basis. And if you download the app, you get all the latest breaking news right across the UK, Europe and in world football. And as you probably aware, we're out and about with our reporters. Kerry's been out there in Amsterdam. She's been in Poland. Of course, Adam is on his way to Leipzig to cover the game Leipzig against Celtic. Adam Binney will be there for us. And we are here, and Tam Ruffy, who decided to go to sunnier climes this week, he'll be lying on a beach right now with a cocktail, not giving two jots, and just thinking about Madrid in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you drew the short straw, did you?
Well, I probably did, but no, I'm delighted to be down here. I'm looking forward to the game. I've never been to Anfield before, never been to Liverpool before, so really looking forward to the game. As you're hoping Rangers can be competitive, maybe get something out of the game.
Yeah, and it's strange actually when you spend more time with people, obviously in little sound bites here and there for a programme, but when you spend more time with them and you get to know them, Stephen, who goes to the Liverpool store and just buy 2 glasses? I mean, that's outrageous. Surely you buy a bit of merch to really remember the game.
Pint glasses.
I can't help feeling Ruffy would have splashed out a bit more than that, I have to say. Even Hughie Donald would have spent more than that, to be fair.
You absolutely would have. Well, that's because his retirement fund is now sitting at about 2.8 million. Although I was actually going to text him and go, I don't want to shatter your illusion, but apparently the pension pot is in big trouble.
I'll text him when we come off here. Don't worry, I'll tell him.
Hugh's out there in New York. He'll be back with us next week, but we're looking forward to covering all the Champions League for you, Celtic and Rangers. And let's not forget, Tam, Hearts against Fiorentina. I have my fingers crossed that this one is just Hearts, if they could get a win at home against Fiorentina, not beyond the realms of possibility, I have to say. They got that confidence boosting win last time out, albeit really battered by Rangers.
Yeah, listen, I think at Tynecastle we always speak about it, and I played many derby games there and for other clubs.
Did you ever win any time?
I did. I won a few actually.
Oh, yeah.
I did. Ruffy never won any, didn't he?
Ruffy
never won a derby.
16 derbies, no wins. Few draws, but no wins.
I won a few.
Remember, Robbo was playing up front for Hearts.
No, but it's a really intimidating place to go and play football. Listen, I think they were outclassed against Istanbul backs of here. I think Fiorentina, drawing at home to Riga was a poor result. They lost to Istanbul, so I know they're a huge name. Fiorentina, Serie A, and Hearts have got a wee chance. If Hearts can win this game, they're really in the driving seat, because I would expect Hearts to beat Riga at home. So I think if you're looking at 6-7 points, that might be enough for Hearts to get into second place. So if they can get out of this group, I think it would be massive for Scottish football, massive for the coefficient. But they've got to beat Fiorentina at home. I don't see them beating them away from home. But at home, if Hearts can win, then they've got every opportunity to finish second in this group. Yeah,
it's a strange situation with Hearts. Just when you start to get excited about them, Stephen, suddenly there's a little blip, a little bump on the road with Robbie Nielsen's side.
I think there's a recurring theme in this programme actually, and it's central defenders. I think if you look at Hearts, they've been really unlucky. I think without Halkett, they are badly damaged. They've obviously missed Suter for obvious reasons. Kai Rose, is it? The Australian fellow who looked really promising in his early games.
Out as
well. And I think you've seen so many times in recent weeks that Hearts have ended up playing fullbacks in central defence. You've had Stephen Kingsley, you've had Michael Smith.
Yep.
And, I thought Kingsley against Rangers, no harm to him because he's a good player, but he's a left back. or at the very worst, a kind of left centre back and a free maybe. And I thought he was exposed very well by Antonio Cholak, but I think as long as you've got that situation going on, you worry for Hearts.
Yeah, the one thing I do like about them at times though is they do play the ball about. I'm a big fan of Barry Mackay because I think when he gets on the ball, he can pick passes, Tam, that some of the midfielders who go for an easy option, he tends to try and look for that diagonal, that ball splitting pass, that suddenly can get in behind the central defender and the fullback. That type of pass, I think he's certainly their most creative, and I think if he's on the ball and they can start to play instead of going route one, then that's the Hearts I like to see.
Yeah, I think he's a really talented player. He's a risk taker, and you need them in your team. You can have guys that keep the possession and play 5-10 yard passes, but you need somebody that's going to have a bit of vision and unlock the door, unlock tight defences, and he is certainly that man. Alan Forrest on the other side, excellent player, started well at Hearts. So I think those two of either side of Lawrence Shankland as a tidy front three. Come up against a team in Fiorentina who, Italian side, you would expect him to defend properly, but I think that Hearts have got every opportunity. Get the first goal, get that big Tynecastle crowd behind you, and then you can go and win the game. But it's going to be tough, but I think Hearts can definitely get something out of this game.
Okay, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for that. Just keeping with some of the stories that have been emerging over the last couple of days and over the weekend. You can give us your thoughts on your favourite team and how they're performing. We'd love to hear from you, as ever, 4 o'clock till 5, and you can watch it at your leisure. You can actually watch the programme now on your phone when you download the app. You can watch it live, or you've got all the archive material and PLZ Soccer's 24/7 now, not only with reporters and stories, but a lot of unique video content, people picking their dream teams and their favourite games along the way. Talking of great goals that we love to see, what about Josh Doig? What an absolute belter that was against Udinese. He's doing well over there.
He's doing excellent over there. He came through in the COVID season. I was working for Hibs at that point, and he was outstanding. But there was no fans there, and he struggled in the following season when there was a full house back in at Easter Road. And I think you've got to have a strong mentality to play for Hibs at times. It was a disappointing season last year, but I think he grew into the season, and he finished the season really strongly. He got his move. And I think that's a great move for him. We've seen Liam Henderson go over to Italy and different players. I think it's great for them to go and try something different. Usually you'd go to your Watford or a Burnley or somewhere down the road and you would disappear. But I think for him to go there, he's got an opportunity to do the same as Aaron Hickey's done. He went to Bologna, got a big move into the Premier League, and if Josh does that, and plays 50, 70, 80 games and maybe get to sell a big move, I think Hibs will reap the benefits of that for a wee sell-on clause that they get inserted.
Yeah, strange phenomenon that we have now, Stephen, because Jurgen Klopp alluded to it yesterday, which was quite simply, Scotland is on the up. The international side's doing well. There is a greater number of young Scottish players now starting to play regularly and choose to go to Europe, which was an unusual trend, and also go down and play in England. If it's not top flight, even in the second tier.
I thought that was a really interesting comment from Jurgen Klopp that Scotland is an interesting place to scout again. Because for years, for decades even, I don't think the English teams particularly cast an eye. I think part of that, of course, is the need for homegrown players in your squad. And Brexit has obviously changed things a bit. So it's easier to go and get young Scottish players now. And there's been a steady. I think the problem Scottish clubs have actually is right at the kind of grassroots level, where your kind of academy players have just been picked off before they sign professional deals in Scotland. They just get picked off, at Morrison at Bayern Munich or what have you. So yeah, it's really hard for them, but it's good to see. The downside is that quite often I don't know that the Scottish clubs get the value that they really should for these players, because the Scottish League just doesn't seem to attract the massive fees. But it's good for the game in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been out and about at some of the lower league clubs, and they actually thrive on the fact that if somebody from their academy then moves to a Celtic or Rangers, then moves on again, that pyramid we're talking about, the trickle down of money, suddenly can reach them, and they maybe get $3,500 or $10,000 or whatever, depending on someone getting a big move. Liverpool, Ben Doak, as Stephen highlighted, from the Celtic, Andy Robertson, Calvin Ramsey, back to fitness, might just be beyond them to get into this squad for this game against Rangers, but that's the level of it. If Liverpool have got 3 Scots in their side, there are other clubs that are looking, and we're all hoping that Billy Gilmore can get regular football at Brighton.
Yeah, I think it's great now that you're seeing young Scottish players, playing in the Premier League. The success of the national team bears testament to that. We've got so many players playing at a high level down the road. And it's amazing that we've got so many fullbacks coming through, right backs now, because there was a period of time where we couldn't get a right back. When Alan Hutton retired, we struggled for right backs. But as you said, you've got Ramsey, you've got Patterson, you've got Hickey who can play that side, and the other side you've got Robertson, you've got Doig. So we've got a lot of good quality players, Tierney. So I think that's why Liverpool's, and even your boy Rory Wilson that went with Rangers to Aston Villa, they're starting to look down in England to up in Scotland to see these proper young players coming through, and that's always going to benefit the Scottish clubs in the long run.
Actually, the right back situation is bonkers, isn't it? Because you were looking at before the Euros, we were looking at Stephen O'Donnell there. What happened to Stephen O'Donnell? And now you're looking at Hickey and you're thinking, you might actually be better than Nathan Patterson. No disrespect to Nathan Patterson, he's a terrific footballer, but two potentially world-class fullbacks there.
Yeah, the one thing that I think that Hickey has in his defence is he can play right or left. I don't know which one is his best foot.
No.
That's the great thing about him.
No.
Amazing. What a talent.
Yeah, and not a shyness either. Neither is his dad. But there again, let's not talk about under 21 football.
He skipped under 21s, didn't he, and going into the full team? But let's be honest, he's paid off now. People are not talking about it now.
The thing is, actually, it's been vindicated.
Well, I was going to say his dad, Phil marched his dad for digging in, but I'll tell you one thing.
He's not playing for under 21s, and he was right.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is I'd love to, what managers are like, they never like a U-turn, but Steve Clarke has performed a U-turn in that, and he did with Ryan Fraser, and why not? It must in our country.
Well, you looked at that game against Republic of Ireland. I sat and looked at the starting 11. I think it was 8 players in the English Premier League. Long time since we were able to say that about a Scotland national team, and it's really terrific, and it just gives you a wee bit of cautious excitement and optimism.
I'll tell you, maybe the last time there were more than 9 players in the Premier League for England was a photograph that Ruffy showed me, which was Scotland in Spain in 1982. There's possibly one from 1986, but the one that I always remember that he showed me from 1982 was Ruffy was lining up there, and he had obviously his League Cup medal from Partick Thistle, and the other 10 players all played for Aberdeen, on the verge of winning the Cup Winners' Cup the year after it. You had Dundee United, who would be in not only a UEFA Cup, but the semi-finals of a European Cup 2 years later. And then the rest of them were Liverpool and Ipswich Town. And it was just every one of them had either played in a European final and won it, or were going to win.
Honestly, Peter, I was researching a piece out a week there, a column, and I was looking at Alan Hansen. Came from Celtic, obviously. He won 3 European Cups. He won 8 English League titles. He won 26 caps for Scotland. After the season that Liverpool won a league, he captained Liverpool to a League and Cup double, I think just before the 1986 World Cup, and then didn't go to the World Cup. Remarkable.
They couldn't get in with Miller McLeish.
Incredible. But the best thing about it is, and I don't know if you can answer this question, because we'll have to pass it on to Ruffy, in the game against Russia when Scotland could have qualified, right? Alan Hansen runs into Willie Miller. Now, at this point, we've asked him continually, Ruffy, why didn't you take Shengelia out? Just hit him the way Callum McGregor took out the Motherwell player at the weekend. Take Shengelia out. And he said to us, but I might have get sent off. And I said, Ruffy, we might have qualified even with you off the park.
To be fair, he would have had to get close to him first, which is kind of a problem.
That was another minor problem. Just before you go, and it's always great, and it won't be the last time we get a chance to speak to you, hopefully, on this programme, Stephen, is the weekend Scottish Premiership. A lot of people will be looking at the results. Tony Watt's come out, I think, in the last 24 hours and mentioned he doesn't think that Dundee United will get relegated. He doesn't see that in the cards. I'll tell you, there's many a good team's been relegated.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Dundee United, you look at St Mirren, it's almost like they've swapped positions, haven't they? I mean, St Mirren up in third place, who are absolutely flying. All credit to Stephen Robinson, who had a very difficult start there. You look at Dundee United, 4th last year under Tam Courts, looked as if they were a team on the make, and they've just gone back downhill again. And it's a really tough job for William Fox, isn't it? Really tough.
And the wage bill as well. There's a lot of players on big money, Tam, there, and they need to step up to the plate and need to try and get a run. I mean, St Mirren have 5 wins in the last 6 games.
Yep, terrific form. And as I said, they get put out of the League Cup early doors and lost the first league game. There's a lot of my brother-in-law's a St Mirren fan. There was a few that probably wanted them out the door. So they've come onto a game. But Dundee United, I mean, who would have thought after that Alkmaar game at home? 1-0. They were absolutely brilliant. People were raving about them in social media, and the Dundee United fans about Jack Ross. And ever since that return leg, the shellacking they took over in Holland, they've not kicked a ball.
Well, do you want me to tell you what's significant about it, Stephen? In my view, is boardroom members, chairman, chief executives, who understand that sometimes a manager needs time. Now, Ron Gordon, Sean Maloney sacked. Jack Ross was sacked too quick at Hibs. St Johnstone stuck by Callum Davison, and slowly but surely he's got the players who were injured back. He's obviously augmented that squad with a wee bit of quality here and there. Got Nicky Clark from Dundee United. I think he'll score goals from them. And they got the win at the weekend over Dundee United. If you have a boardroom where you've got people who think stability, we need to give the man time, St Mirren are equally so reaping the rewards.
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous kind of irony, if you like, Peter, because you look at the Deloitte independent review, which was driven very much by American owners or American-based owners with the best intentions, the best will at heart to try and make more money for Scottish football and make the game better. But actually, by and large, it's those clubs who are struggling most. You look at Hibs, you look at Dundee United, you look at Dundee, Aberdeen maybe turning a corner under Jim Goodwin, I hope. But, you can't be handing out lectures to the rest of Scottish football about where you're going wrong if your own club is down in the grubber. And ultimately, Mark Ogwen probably on the hook for 13, 14 million at Dundee United. Now, that's a worrying situation because how does he get that money back? Ron Gordon. All sorts of rumours that he wouldn't be averse to selling Hibs as well. How do these guys get their investment back? Because looking at those clubs right now, it's difficult to see this is how they sort of panning out.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, the one thing, and you only have to look at why there's so much consternation in the Rangers camp, because clubs are automatically thinking we've just got to grasp anywhere and put it out there and try and get more money for the SPFL deal. 41, I think, of the 42 clubs all decided were pitching in with that deal. Rangers didn't want any part of it. Certainly, they thought it should have been put out to tender. I mean,
no, I don't buy that argument. I mean, for me, the idea that the SPFL have a marketing agency. Are you seriously telling me that they wouldn't know? If
They must have.
Well, this is the point we were making. I actually, just because it's been put out there as it should have been put out to tender, I said, do you seriously think they haven't gone to the market and said, is there anybody there?
Yeah.
And the last time they did put it out, the only other bidder was BT, who bid a derisory sum. So I just don't think that argument holds up. To be honest, I don't really think Rangers' problem really was with the TV deal. I think they think it is a bit undersold, obviously, but I think they would have signed up to it. Obviously, they wanted a certain proviso and guarantee over the situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the driving force of trying to get Neil Doncaster out of his position, that's
clearly something that they're not going to give up easily.
No, absolutely. Anyway, just on that, before we go, we think we might as well get your take on this so we can play it back to you on a video later on. Who did you pick to win the title?
Oh, you had to pick Celtic, I think.
And who did you pick to relegated? We've got it down to, I picked St Johnstone, which I think I'll fall foul of making a mistake. Who did you pick?
Oh, I think I picked Ross County.
Did you?
I think so.
Yeah. We think it's between three teams, Killie, Dundee United and Ross County.
Well, if you're saying who did I pick at the beginning of the season,
I
picked Livingston. Because we make that mistake every single year. You always think that, the operating players on one-year contracts that eventually David Martindale won't make the right signings and it'll go down. But honestly, Livingston are the new Hamilton, aren't they? They're a bit like, when Vladimir Putin drops a bomb, it'll be, cockroaches in Livingston left surviving. Yeah. Because they just have this amazing knack, a tremendously talented manager, David Martindale, of pulling it out the fire. And I think they're going to survive comfortably now. So I'm having to revise my opinion rapidly, and right now it looks like the Dundee United team.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up about it. I picked Hamilton 8 years in the trot.
Absolutely. I think we all did.
And the only season they didn't make relegated.
They just did it to spite us, I think. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the joy of Scottish football, and I love talking about players, love talking about teams. Interestingly enough, Tam, I was just looking there, I love a wee bit of nostalgia before we go, but we are down for Liverpool against Rangers. Can you imagine being down here at Anfield, and this was a game in the European Cup in the 70s, and suddenly you've got Cooper coming out for Rangers and you've got King Kenny coming out for Liverpool? It would be absolutely magnificent, wouldn't it?
But, listen, I think we've got a game here with the potential for people to be talking about it in years to come. Here's hope so.
Yeah. An absolute joy to be joined by Stephen McGowan of the Daily Mail. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time we'll be speaking to Stephen and his thoughts on Scottish football. And, of course, Tam and I down here to enjoy Liverpool against Rangers. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free to watch the programme Monday to Friday at 4 o'clock. There's so much more content for you to enjoy. Reporters across the Champions League and the Scottish Premiership and beyond. If you download the PLZ Soccer app, you get all the breaking football stories. and the chance to enjoy some great content. There's Pat Nevin picking his dream team, Gordon Strachan 1-to-1. So many interesting footballers from near and far. It's all on PLZ Soccer. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and you can join us every day of the week and watch it at your leisure. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks to Stephen, to Tam, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.